Do I have permission?
You're good.
Disturb that
Well,
one.
somebody
Let that play
do
out.
something with that thing.
Oh, you can.
I was there too.
Okay, I call the meeting, the regular meeting of the Platteville Board of Trustees for October 3rd. An addendum to our moment of silence. Our former finance clerk, Lauren Holt, was at the concert in Las Vegas during the shooting a few nights ago. I'm glad to tell you that she was uninjured but traumatized. Our former finance director, Wanda Weinrich, was with Lauren and she was shot in the leg. She is now home and is recovering. These things keep getting closer. This sad event brings into focus just how important are the people who protect us inside and outside our borders. Please observe a moment of silence to reflect on and honor these folks. Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Steve Nelson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hope Morris, Larry Clark, Adrian Sandoval,
Here.
Kim Nelson,
Here.
Michael Cowper,
Here.
Troy Blum.
Here. Okay, approval of the agenda.
I'm going to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Audience participation. I don't see any audience that's looking dying to participate, so I guess we'll roll forward. Approval of the consent agenda, which is regular meeting minutes for September 19th, 2017.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Action items. This is a public hearing that was tabled last meeting. I am going to reconvene the public hearing at
7:03.
Thank you very much. I think it's going to drive me crazy until we fix it. Okay, Mr. Rankin, would you please recap or have any additional information?
Actually, I wanted to refer to North Lieutenant or town planner to do that.
All right, good evening. This application was, the presentation for the application was made 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to abbreviate it a bit, since some of you heard it at that time. So this application is being brought forward by KLX Energy Services, and they are located at 12529 County Road 38. And their request tonight is for a conditional review use in order to build a bunker facility to house explosive materials that are used in their oil and gas operations. So this property is zoned industrial, and in our industrial zoning, we contemplated uses just like this. So, as conditional review uses. So this application complies with the underlying zoning for the site. The site was approved through Western Trucking and Equipment as a site plan application. They have purchased the site and they're going to occupy it and build this bunker facility. So, with that, there are several criteria that the board has to consider in making a recommendation for a conditional review use. And I think in summary, the important ones are compliance with the underlying zoning, and I touched on that. Compatibility with the surrounding area. And this is an area that is largely zoned industrial. There are other similar, maybe not bunker facilities, but oil and gas facilities in the immediate area. So the application is also, the bunker facility has to meet certain setback requirements that are established by the federal government. They're going to address those setback requirements. They're part of the backup material. But I think that's another step in ensuring that it is compatible with any surrounding residential, because those setbacks are between the facility and any the closest residential homes. So based on those items, we believe that it is compatible in that area, this type of use. The other really important one has to do with public safety. And so our local fire department is really the local authority for the state and federal regulations that regulate this type of facility. So the Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms is one of those, and then there's the Office of Oil and Gas Facilities. And so those are two of the agencies that the applicant will discuss tonight and how they comply with that. But Trevor Homiak with Platteville Gilchrist Fire Protection District submitted a letter to you that's in the backup material that indicates that the application is in compliance with those regulations, and he will help ensure the ongoing compliance as the operation underway. So that is also included as one of the conditions of approval. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. You've read the backup material. There are more criteria. I think those are the big ones. The application was heard by the Planning Commission and approved this evening. So with the 4 conditions of approval that are listed in your staff report, I will add to the record tonight the letter that we received from the ditch company. It is the Farmers Independent Ditch Company submitted a letter for you to review, and they indicate in this letter that they have no outstanding concerns with the proposal. At the Planning Commission hearing 2 weeks ago, we had members of the ditch company who spoke out of concern that the ditch company wasn't notified. So in the interim, the applicant went out, met with the ditch company on site, talked to them about the application, and we received this letter of no concern. So I'm submitting that in addition to the other materials you have on this. So staff is recommending this application favorably based upon the 4 conditions and the resolution that's part of your packet this evening. But I'll read you the 4 conditions. We'll talk about them. We talked about compliance with the local, state, and federal regulations, and they'll need to continue that as long as that facility operates. The installation of the bunker, they will need to, again, provide proof to our local fire department as part of that ongoing compliance. The bunker facility has to be located exactly where it's shown on the site plan. And before they can commence operations, they have to have a signed conditional review use permit, which we have drafted and is in your backup materials. So we should be able to expedite that pretty quickly. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Was there anybody that wasn't here last meeting? Okay.
It's here in the heart.
I was like,
Okay. I'm just curious, how much, do you have any questions? It's pretty straightforward, yeah.
Plan.
Okay. If nobody has anything else, I will close the public hearing at, I'm going to take a shot and say 7:10.
I think we should provide the applicant opportunity to speak.
Okay, because I thought we were just going to,
We would certainly be happy to give the presentation if any of the board members would like to hear it. It's also printed and in the record, in the event that you'd like to forego the presentation and just ask us any questions that you might have. So we defer to you on what you would like to hear from us.
I think one thing that made a difference was having the actual visual pictures of what the device was. That was the concern, I think, that a lot of us were having, or even the people that were in the audience. So having that presented, I think, was very helpful. And that kind of cleared up some, how big the device is.
Oh, yeah,
and you have to use it.
that's
So,
right.
yeah, thank you.
I think I'm satisfied with what we've got here. I don't think they need to, unless they want to.
Need to practice.
Both of us love public
meetings,
Yeah.
I think we're good, thank you. Be more than happy to answer any questions.
Everybody happy?
I'm happy.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing at, I'm assuming 7:10.
7:09.
Just add 5 minutes to that, Mayor.
Add, subtract.
No, it's about 2 minutes off.
Okay, very good. Now that we have this under control, assuming we have this under control, I would entertain a motion on this subject.
Move to approve resolution 2017-25, a resolution approving conditional review use for an explosive storage bunker on Lot B, recorded exemption number 1057-31-4 RE-4066.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. So, we're good to go.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
You bet.
Thank you.
Mayor, no, we're taking on this.
And that's, oh, thank you. Was that probably the like the actual guy?
It's the construction stuff.
Well, the barricade, yeah, we just need
the bunker. Okay. Next, I'm gonna open the public hearing. And
Thinking too much.
I'm gonna open the public hearing at 7:12 for the Highway 66 annexations 4 through 7. Mr. Rankin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm going to refer to most of the town planner, and I think this is something that the board's been wanting to have done for some time now.
All right, good evening. Well, this is really kind of part 2 of our annexation process. So we are the applicant, the Town of Platteville, and similar to the first portion of the annexation, which was the town boundary at the time was Division Street down to County Road 21. And that annexation was completed in June of this year. And so this annexation tags onto that and moves us to County Road 19. So it takes 4 maps to do that, so that we meet that 1/6 contiguity. But that's the purpose. So again, we are the applicants, and the town was the signatory on the petitions that were required as part of this. It is only public right-of-way, there's no private property. But we are going to be zoning the property. We have that public hearing scheduled. So we're looking at the zone district public. Kind of makes sense for public right-of-way. So that will be an additional step in this process. As we talked about last time, the Colorado Department of Transportation really is the owner, and they basically are not willing to be the applicant, they're just willing to not stand in our way. So, again, we haven't had any problems with this, they've agreed to it, and so that's how we're moving forward this time. The application does require that there was a compliance resolution that you approved on August 18th. That ensured that we sort of met the state's criteria for and requirements for an annexation. So that was done on August 18th. An impact report was submitted to Wells County on August 1st. So we met that statutory requirement. So we believe, it's been published 5 times in the newspaper. So it's, no small effort or expense to get us this far along, but we believe we've followed the process accordingly. So we are, staff is recommending the proposed annexation with the 4 ordinances that are part of your backup materials this evening. So again, I can answer any questions if you have them.
And this is on the north side of 66.
It is 66.
the highway right-of-way. So right-of-way is right-of-way is, so right-of-way plus the ditches that are seated right-of-way, all the way to the St. Louis River Bridge.
Okay. Okay, so it's the entire highway, okay?
Yes, correct. And since we've noticed this, I have not received anything in my office as far as comment, opposition, or anything else.
And we found no landowners that would like to anchor this.
Not this time. We've talked to them a couple of times over the years during different events, and they've asked a lot of questions, but I think they're content just staying in unincorporated Will County. Because they understand our reasoning behind what we're trying to do. We're not doing this to initially develop or build a bunch of homes or whatever the case may be. It's more of a preservation effort, and that's been the intent from the ongoing. Some things will eventually develop. The property owners have that right.
Yeah.
But the town is not pushing for a large development of any time to affect what's already out there, which is mostly ag use.
The property owners that they were presented by the town of Firestone to be annexed in to their, they can still do that, it's just, even though we're annexing the highway.
They could jump the annexation. So you can't use the same annexation as a flagpole, but they can jump over if they want to. And they're still currently 2 miles south of 66 in Town of Platteville, as far as their annexation limits go.
Is there any talk of them moving? I know they've had a lot of stuff going out there for it, but are they?
I have not heard anything. I know the last year I've asked Melissa to check their website and see what kind of public hearings they may or may not be having. We've not seen anything. I know from people I know that live in the Firestone Tri-Town area that they're addressing other big issues like barefoot, lakes, and so on and so forth. But I've not seen anything. And quite honestly, we know enough people out there that live along that corridor that would be more than willing to let us know if they ever notice on anything. So this will conclude all of the annexations for this year for 85 and 66. This will be the last piece.
Does anybody have anything? Does our vast audience have anything?
Just get it done.
Do we have to approve them individually?
Looks like we can do the last one.
One at a time, yeah.
One at a time, yes, yes. Okay, then I will close the public hearing at 7:13. Take a shot at that. And the first would be ordinance 754. If someone would like to chime in on that.
Move to approve ordinance 754, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving the annexation of certain properties in unincorporated Weld County, Highway 66, annexation number 4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have ordinance 755. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 755, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving the annexation of certain property in unincorporated Weld County, Highway 66, annexation number 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this issue. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next is ordinance 756.
My turn? Ordinance 750, I make a motion for ordinance 756, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving the annexation of certain property in unincorporated Weld County, Highway 66, annexation number 6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this issue. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Let's see, we have the last one here. Ordinance 757, Adrian.
My turn.
Oh, it's your turn?
Ordinance number 757, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of Platteville approving the annexation of certain properties in unincorporated Weld County, Highway 66, annexation number 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this issue. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is also carried.
Right. We are now
Next, we have agreement for services for rock solid landscapes. Mr. Rankin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time, I want to excuse the town planner, so she can leave.
She's leaving the building.
And with this, normally David is with
Thank
us
you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
on the second meeting of the night, or the second meeting of the month, but this one and the following items, Public Works related, I want them on this agenda, so I still attend this meeting instead of next one. So I'm going to defer to David.
Thank you, Mr. Manager and Mr. Mayor. This is basically an annual renewal for Rock Solid Landscapes. They've been the company that have been taking care of the town's mowing contract for the last 3 years. This will be the fourth, I believe. I may have my numbers wrong. I think it's the fourth. As I noted in the cover sheet, their cost per week went up about $69.23. That basically was a little bit of extra mowing that we added out in the Rogers Farm area, plus a couple of bucks on almost every other area. It was $2 to $4 that they went up on almost every area, and then we added about 17,000 more square feet of mowable area, that new area that'll be fenced there at Rogers Farm Park with the basketball court and all that. That is now in their contract to mow that, whether it stays native or once we go to sod with it, either or. They've done a good job for us, so I would ask the board to approve this contract so we can make sure that we get on their schedules for Tuesdays and Fridays next year, just like we have been for the last 3 years.
Rock Solid's done a great job. The parks look wonderful. One suggestion, I would give them the recreation schedule. We had the Pee Wee soccer and at Rogers Farm this summer, and they kept interrupting our practice. They actually canceled a couple practices because they said we couldn't be on the field. And
What
they
time
were
of
just
day was the practice, Kim?
5.
Okay, so they were getting...
They were mowing
they were
greenways
mowing
first.
there late in the day then?
Yes, it was late in the day.
Okay.
And
I can
and
certainly,
they
this is the first I've heard about that. I would have addressed it this summer.
No, I mentioned it to Troy, but,
but,
we asked them to, ask the guy that mows just to change the schedule a little so it wasn't happening, and well, he did it 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, Kim and I did talk, and soccer was winding down, and I just talked to you, but they're easy to adjust their schedule.
Yeah, and then just mention to them and let them know the schedule so that
Okay.
doesn't happen.
Well, and I assume that practices are late afternoon, early evening type thing is when they will be out there practicing. They don't practice during the day.
No, they don't practice
Okay.
during the day. So that
Well-
it's easy to get around that if they just know the schedule.
Yeah, and we can adjust that. I mean, we ask them not to mow town hall in the evening hours, because a lot of times we end up with a board meeting on Tuesday nights when they're doing that, and then we've got the weed whackers and everything else. So we can adjust that, modify that, have them, figure out, and, maybe we need to adjust the sprinkling schedule and move them to the cemetery. But I think they actually bring 2 crews in. They do the cemetery with 1 crew, and then they're doing the other parks and stuff with. But they're very easy to work with. Now that I'm aware of that situation, we can address that.
It's a minor thing, the kids really like the
Yep.
sports, it's not that long of a season, but
Yep.
it really messes them up because they're just learning how. And then they
Not-
start practice.
That won't be a problem. We will definitely address that.
The only other thing I want to add is a few years ago we decided, because we bid it out every year, it is nice for staff, especially David, to have a contractor that's good, reliable work with them, gives a good bid to stay with somebody for long term, because you build a relationship and they're easy to work with. So I just wanted to add that point on the record that we have opened it up periodically, but until our sales price goes up or someone approaches us with something different as far as a better price and same quality, I like to stay with RSLs more.
I think the only time we generally entertain RFPs is if we are, for some reason, dissatisfied with what we're getting. So I have no problem with that either. I mean, their increase is certainly understandable.
They haven't increased the last couple of years, have they?
Yeah, there's been a slight increase
Yes.
every time, but it has not been a substantial increase. I mean, I think and of course, these numbers are based on them mowing the full 26 weeks plus the extra 2 weeks in October and the 2 weeks in April. This year, we didn't have them start mowing until the second week of May. We probably will have them mow twice in October, and then if weather holds and we've got a bunch of leaves down and stuff, we may have them come back and help with once in November or something like that. But in all the years that I have done it, we have never paid out
The entire
every
contract.
week that we have asked them to do. So,
It's good flexibility.
so they, I mean, 2 weeks or a week ago, Gordon informed me that, you know, the Valley softball is now using the new field, so they're not coming down and using this, and there's no more softball leagues, baseball leagues, anybody using the ball fields. So we contacted RSL and said just go to mowing them once a week, because we normally mow them on Tuesdays and on Fridays, so that they're ready for the Friday night and weekend softball, so that the grass isn't too tall for the Valley games or for the tournaments. So we just pulled that off their contract, so we're saving that little bit of money every week until the end of the contract now, because we're only having them go in there once a week. So.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion on this subject.
Move to approve the renewal of the agreement for services with Rockfall Landscape for the 2018 landscape maintenance season in the amount not to exceed $55,000, and authorize the mayor to execute.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Larry Clark, Adrian Sandoval,
Aye.
Kim Nelson,
Aye.
Michael Kelper,
Aye.
Hope Morris, Troy Blum.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Next, we have the downtown street sign replacement proposal. Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you recall, I'll turn over to David, as you recall before, I already approved the street signs themselves. And upon talking to David, I think, you know, little steps at a time to improve the downtown, this is one of them, in my opinion, that's pretty cost effective, is to, you know, some nice street posts all the way down Main Street. But, David will talk about the details.
Again, good evening. Excuse me. We solicited the decorative street sign post from several different vendors. We did include two different models. It's the same post, just with a different base. Part of the reason that we're recommending that we go with the Mountain States Lighting Company, their post was slightly more, but their base was a little bit less than the other companies, but the other companies require that the base and the post be purchased together, and they told me that their base cannot be added at a later time. Mountain States Lighting allows us the flexibility to add the base at a later date if we so choose. So, I mean, we're considering if we get these posts put in this fall or over the winter time, if the weather holds enough for us to do that, then potentially next spring we could add the bases to them and create something that's a little more decorative. They are a solid black pole that'll go very well with our white signs with the black lettering that we have ordered. We ended up, the board had approved back in the spring up to $5,000 for the purchase of the street signs themselves. We ended up with a bid of right around $3,600. It was interesting, we had four bidders. The bids were anywhere from $3,600 to $13,500 for the 210 signs.
Whoa.
Big difference.
Would those more expensive ones have been probably cast iron? Everything would have been cast iron?
No, they were the exact same signs. They were a .08, I want to say millimeters thick, aluminum, double-sided, retro-reflective, 6-inch blade by up to 30-inch blade long, depending on the name of the street. they all bid the exact same thing, and the bids were, people ask us why we order from this company out of North Dakota. That's the reason. And not only did the order out of North Dakota cost us $3,600, but they threw in the shipping because it was an over $1,000 order. We had the $13,000 bid come back plus shipping. So,
Are we responsible for somebody's Hawaii trip or something?
so basically, getting back to these sign posts to put these on, as Troy said, little steps. And what we're looking at was we could do just the main part of downtown, go from Grand Avenue to down to Justin or Highway 66, and that would be 10 intersections. And so we're hoping that we can figure out and put them on the same corner. I think we were thinking northeast corner of each of the intersections. That's not where all of them are located now, but people will start to look for them in a uniform location along Main Street. But we'll have to verify that we can do that at all those at all those intersections. And we may not be able to. We may have to switch because of somebody's concrete driveway or pavement or utility poles or other things like that. We may have to figure in but we're going to try to be as uniform as we can with them. As you can see, the price does go down a little bit as we order more of them. And so with the signs that we had ordered for the $3,600, plus if we went ahead and did all 17 intersections from County Road 32.5 up by the Energy Park all the way to the south end of Bella Vista, every intersection, that gives us 17 intersections along Main Street that we would be putting a sign. That would put us approximately $2,650 over the $10,000 line item that's budgeted in the streets fund for street signs. But we are under on other items in the streets fund at this point that we should be okay as far as the bottom line of that fund itself.
So we're just talking posts, not base.
We're just talking the posts right now, yes. So it would be a 3-inch post with what they call the acorn cast on top. It does have the scroll arm, the 16-inch scroll arm, and it includes 2 of those. So there are a couple of streets where I'll have to buy a third one because most people don't realize Main Street becomes North Main Street at Reynolds Avenue. Division Boulevard becomes North Division Boulevard at Reynolds Avenue. We have a couple of situations like that where we'll have to have, Main Street going south at Reynolds and North Main Street going north at Reynolds, plus then Reynolds would be on there as the cross street. So, so the choosing of the base can happen at a later time, Kim. Personally, I like the one that's a little bit taller. But that's just my personal preference, so.
Okay, so you're gonna order the poles and then the base at a later time?
Yes. What we would be looking at, Steve, is if things go well and we're able to put these in like we hope this winter, if we catch some months this winter where we can get it done or early next spring, hopefully we're able to do the budget in such a way that we go ahead and leave some funds. At this point, Troy and I have budgeted $5,000 into the street fund under street signs for next year. So if that doesn't change between now and when we finalize the budget, the funds would be there towards, I would guess that we'd probably wait until a little later in the year next year, but we may go ahead right away just to make sure we don't need those funds somewhere else.
So we anticipate keeping these in cold storage until we buy the bases?
No. We can install, that's the thing with this company, we can install the bases at a later date, so we can go ahead and put the sign, posts up. So what my plan of attack is right now is we should have the new black and white signs for everywhere in town by the end of October. So we can start putting those up everywhere, including on Main Street. There's a 7 to 12 week lead time on getting these posts actually into our possession. So it's gonna be towards the end of the year before we have the posts. What I'll have the guys do is we'll wait to do Main Street until to see whether the posts show up before we go to the trouble to put the other signs up on Main Street. But we're not gonna leave Main Street without the new signs if we've got them up everywhere else in town. We'll go ahead and put them up on the existing signposts for now. When these signposts come in, and when we can get them put up, be it this winter sometime or be it next spring, we'll get the new posts put in, and we'll move the signs from the existing signposts over to the new signposts. And then, at that time, the board can decide if they want us to go ahead and expend the funds, or I guess, actually, it's less than the town manager's, amount at that point, so depending on how the budget looks and that kind of thing, if the board directs us to head that direction, we would put the bases on sometime next year.
Okay, I have a couple questions associated with that.
Okay?
How are those bases going to be attached? Will they have to be slid from the very top down, or are they two-piece?
It's my understanding they're two-piece, but that was just an assumption on my part from the way he described it, so I will ask that question and find out.
Another thing that would be good to ask is, how securely is it going to be fastened to the pole? I have seen these in other areas where the bottom sits there, and it is subject to be kicked by energetic young people.
So not only is it a two-piece, but then how is it secured? Does that actually clamp down tight?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually meeting with the sales guy later this week on these, so I'll be able to get those answers.
Because that would make a difference if we're gonna put the poles in and everything initially, and then put the base in later. If we have to take everything off the top and then slide it down, I mean, granted, it's not a huge thing, but it does take time.
I will ask those questions.
Thank you, sir.
Can we put Christmas decorations up on them?
Doesn't look like there's much.
They're only 10 feet high.
Right.
You put ribbons on them?
We could probably put something, I mean, Milliken has something very similar down Highway 60, and they have the two little arms that come off of them that they put banners and some other stuff on. I'm not gonna promise anything lit, even though this is Mountain States lighting. This is not a light pole. This is just a sign pole. But, having said that, I believe we could probably add the banner holders very easily, so we could have a Harvest Day banner, we could probably have some kind of a Christmas banner or something. Now, whether they make them with a battery-powered LED light in them that you can hang on there that isn't gonna weigh a lot, maybe, I don't know, Adrian, but I don't wanna make a promise I can't keep.
No, sure.
So, but I agree with the town manager that if the board was willing to go ahead and spend the funds to do all 17, I think it would be pretty cool to do the entire length of Main Street.
You know, reason to do a partial job.
I agree.
So,
Where are you gonna find the money?
And the street fund.
For that full, now you're talking to do the full street.
$2,600 over line item. And the street fund is well under budget at this point, that's why we took out $100,000 out of that, because there's no more. So the street fund is actually doing pretty well.
Okay, is there a specific line item that would come out of?
Nope, we'll just take out the same line item, because line items will go over, but other line items go under.
Okay, yeah.
We'll just, for tracking purposes, it'll be the same line item, they'll just show, 110% or whatever it will be,
Okay,
so.
okay. If you all are comfortable with that?
I think it'll look more impressive to be all the way down Main Street.
I agree.
Like
Not
it's part
leaving
of the-
anybody out.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that's why we wanted to present both options to the board, so.
Okay.
If that's the case, the first one that I wrote there is the one that somebody should probably make a.
Move to authorize the town staff to order 17 posts for Mountain Street lighting in the amount of $8,534 plus shipping.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this subject. May I have a roll call, please?
Adrian Sandoval,
Aye.
Kim Nelson,
Aye.
Michael Cowper, Hope Morris, Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark.
Okay. carried. I'm assuming that Mr. Brand is just delighted beyond measure.
I think your town manager is more excited than the public works director is.
It's a start to downtown.
It is.
Yeah, finally.
If I could only find where I put, there it is. Otherwise, I was gonna have to have a monologue here for about 10 minutes while I found this. Okay, next, Veterans Memorial Initial Landscaping Estimate. Mr. Rankin?
Mr. Mayor. Initially, I received an estimate from High Plain Landscapes, and I talked to Steve for 11.5. I recently met with him up there. The issue being is with the recent moisture, landscaping, getting that in there up there right away is probably very unlikely. But there still needs to have some surface work done, some drainage put in there, as far as some swell to keep that water away from the memorial. Two trains of thought, and he did add, there's another $1,800, I think that's reasonable from walking with him up there. He did provide a map showing what we're adding and what he's adding, which makes a lot of sense to keep that area from flooding. But his most recent bid is $13,300. There is approximately $17,000 and some change in the Veterans Memorial Fund this time, close to $18,000. So the money is available. Two trains of thought is, I'm comfortable moving forward, the board is in agreement with the contract, so when the weather does break, he can start doing some other work up there, or you can wait till next year. But there's a lot of anticipation with the memorial being built, and the dedication ceremony at the end of the month. Then we talked about it. I mean, some of this work will have to be done right away, but the majority of it will be a spring project and get done before Memorial Day weekend. This isn't special revenue funds, so it's not a general fund issue where it's basically bought, you have to clear out and restart. This isn't the Veterans Memorial Fund. We're hoping to get more donations and do some more fundraising. There is a meeting on Thursday to talk about the dedication ceremony. But a couple years ago, we initially talked about this. High Plains Landscapes, along with CNR Electric, along with some others in the community, have put a lot of effort into this. And I like to keep it local if possible. I think it means more. And I think the price is within reason.
What about reinforcing the law?
That's going to be the next topic I'm going to talk about after this.
Does that need to be done before this?
That will not affect this one. The overall landscaping, yes, not the drainage. I'm sorry, let me clarify, not the drainage. Yeah, that's just cutting that path and reinforcing those areas to keep the water off that we're talking about this time.
This is my husband's company, I want to make that clear, public, I want to recuse myself.
Good. The biggest thing, I've been up there a couple of times, and it's very important that we get that water away from it, because if we get water going through underneath some of the foundation of sidewalks, we're going to crack, that stuff is heavy, it'll destroy that in the next 10 to 20 years if we don't do it right the first time. So I think it's very important that we get this done and do it right and get that water so it's flowing around and outside of it, instead of going underneath that, all that work has been done.
Can you put a mesh or something down on the ground until spring? I'm thinking the same thing as Rogers Farm, we're not putting in sod until spring, because if we have a dry winter, we got all that sod investment and it's dead. Because we're not irrigating.
Yeah, we're not putting any sod in Rogers Farm this spring. That'll be decision by board next year. This is with that somewhat fresh dirt up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's pretty fine. You go up there right now with we've had over 2 inches of rain last 2 weeks, and it's holding up. But when I talked to Steve, we're looking at, he showed me the areas that in accordance to the map that he's gonna cut in and keep, so that elevation, that water gets away. And then he had talked about material just to hold things down over the winter time. I don't know the details, but I think what your concern is will be addressed.
That's what it sounds
Well, we
like.
can even put like spread grass or hay to protect the soil from washing away too during the winter time.
There's
Yeah,
a,
and I'm thinking, they're talking about how expensive sod is, and for the same reason we're not doing it around here.
Yeah, we're not doing sod yet. We were
Up
thinking,
there.
no, we were thinking about it, but with the delay and now with the other topic we'll talk about next, with the footers, there's just not enough time.
Okay.
And I won't throw
Okay.
money away.
That's what I
But I
was
would like to
understanding.
consider this, or you can bring it back when you're ready in the spring if you want to. My recommendation is to approve the contract because he's already been working up there and spent a lot of hours assessing it, talking to me, talking to Jim Nelson, talking to Mike Evans. I think it's due diligence from the town to approve the contract so we can at least start some of the process.
Well, no, this isn't town money, right? This is the committee's money that they've
These are
raised.
some donations over the years.
Okay, and this is what the committee wants to do?
I talked to Penny and she knows we can't get the landscaping in and talked to the other committee members. I haven't talked to every one of them. I'm gonna bring it up on Thursday. I don't see anyone saying, not to move forward with this.
Well, I'm thinking if the committee wants it and it's their money and we're just supposed to approve it because
Well,
it's
it's,
money?
it's not the committee's money, it's the Veterans Memorial Fund. And the committee makes recommendations to the board. The board controls the money.
We're responsible for it?
You are responsible for that money under ordinance. The committee does the fundraising and they get funds that come into the town, do donations and fundraising. But it was a special revenue fund set up, and the board has to authorize expenditures out of that fund. The committee has no control of that fund. Up to this point, the board has always gone along with recommendations from the committee, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is more my recommendation, but the committee knows about it.
well, if they're not putting in sod, and it doesn't die, they won't get mad about it.
No.
Because it was a dry winter.
No, I would just,
But, yeah, I would get something like straw to stabilize it, like truck or something.
Now, you said that, it's increased, so this, recommendation would be 13,000?
13,300, not to exceed number.
13,300, okay.
Even, but it lifts sod here.
Yeah, this is for the whole thing, as far as the landscaping, irrigation, and everything.
So we're approving it, but some of it won't
We're-
be done till
The
spring.
majority's not gonna be done till the spring,
Okay,
but I would like to, you know, the work that there, at times that it's been, he can start getting some of that drainage moved around, move that dirt around, which we need to do sooner than later. And then we'll pretty much stop until the spring.
okay,
So I just didn't wanna break it up, Kim.
that's fine. I
Yeah.
just wanted to be clear as to
Yeah,
what.
we're not putting up sod up there, because we just ran out of time. I made that decision with him yesterday, and we both agreed. The ditch agreed to leave the water on the ditch until, they were gonna turn it off next week because the farmers weren't making any calls on the ditch. David called them, and they were gonna leave it on until the 1st of November, or basically the first freeze or frost, which may be next Monday with a high forecast of 46 degrees. So, the water's gonna be in the ditch much longer either, so things are against this on the landscaping.
Well, we only want to do it once.
Correct. So that's my recommendation to the board.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Now, and I do probably need some clarification. This fund, we have to authorize the expenditure of this fund, but we do not exercise direct control. We are spending money out of this fund at the direction
No.
of somebody, because here, and let me get,
We take the recommendation and we make the decision.
because we have a policy about people on the board, doing things for the town, or selling services or goods to the town. We've had the policy for a while. I realize we're looking at changing it, but we still have it in effect. My question is, and I don't, this isn't anything against Adrian, but are we violating our own policy
2 years ago, I approached the town attorney about this topic, and that's when we first were looking at High Plain landscape, doing the landscape. At that time, she said, because these are not taxpayer funds that were brought in, they were donations brought in, that she did not feel that there was a legal violation of the policy.
And that was exactly what I
Kendra said
wanted to
that?
hear.
Yes.
Okay,
That was,
she knows.
and that's clarification for us here and for the people who may be tuning in later, that we are keeping this above board.
This is a project as a whole, not just landscaping, as a whole, that, for lack of a better term, you know, I handpicked the electrician that we used. You know, we found a mason, we didn't bid all that stuff out, we found people that were cost-effective, willing to donate a lot of their time, which they have, and provide some reasonable estimates to the town. I'm very comfortable with that right now.
Okay. And that was, I just want everybody to understand why I asked these questions, because in the interest of transparency,
Yes.
we don't need anybody thinking that we're doing something we shouldn't be. Does anybody have any questions on this? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the proposal from High Plains Landscaping, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $13,300 for the initial landscaping at the Veterans Memorial, and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement for services with High Plains Landscaping upon review by legal counsel.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Kim Nelson,
Aye.
Michael Cowper,
Aye.
Hope Morris, Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark, Adrian Sandoval.
Is that enough vote for a quorum?
Three.
Okay,
And Steve.
I'll make sure it's right.
Okay.
I have a
Congrats.
question.
Congratulations, Adrian.
This is not the company.
What's the recommended action, I'm sorry?
It's not High Plains Landscaping, it's High Plains Landscape.
Landscape, so we can correct the motion to High Plains.
No, I'm not gonna make that
Oh, well, there's.
So amended.
So let the official record note that. I'm assuming your husband's going to be spending some sleepless nights now.
Yes,
You're not going to let him come home till he's done.
because I already had quite a few.
I did receive this bid via email after midnight yesterday.
Yes, I
For making
remember.
that public. I really appreciate that.
Late night work. Sorry.
Next, we have presentation of 2018 draft budget.
Uh,
Mr. Rankin,
Okay.
is that what you wish?
Well, I
to do,
wanted to,
or
we
put
did the
off?
landscaping, but I wanted to do the action item on the Veterans Memorial cost updates and discussion.
Okay, then I will defer to that. If you want to inject that into there,
Please. And now I'd like to talk about the footers, so it's been mentioned. So,
please go right ahead.
over a week ago, Jim Nelson Mason was basically potholing and digging under two ends of the memorial wall, because he's doing some more rock to finish up the stone. Saw the footers and dug down to the base of them, measured them. Long story short, they're not quite below frost line, which is 3 feet. They're short of that. And the footers are basically upside down teeth. They go down, and then at the bottom, they're supposed to be out 6 to 8 inches. They're not quite that far either, about half of that. So there's a question on long-term stability. I talked to David, we looked at it together, reached out to Steve, the engineer, he's not a structural engineer, he suggested get a hold of the original engineer, pulled the plans up, and the engineer coming out of Fort Collins, an engineer named Cody. I left messages last week, didn't return. I did call him, get through to him yesterday morning, and he said, can I just talk to the mason and let him describe to me what's going on? So they had a conversation yesterday afternoon. He called me back. He said it would definitely be worth looking into, and I'll send you my staff professional service agreement. Well, I have to use ours, so I talked to Kendra, and I sent him our template, which varies a little bit about liability, limits and so on and so forth. I called him twice today, and I emailed him, and I had not heard back from him, because I told him the meeting was tonight. So, what we're looking at is a scope from the original structural engineer. The structural engineer that used to work for KBN years ago, Mr. Eric Groff, that I had inspect the community center, he has since retired. And he really didn't know of any other structural engineer that was immediately available. I'm assuming something came up this afternoon with Cody. His last name is Geisendorfer, I think, as hard as it's pronounced. But it's something that needs to be addressed sooner or later. I don't want to wait till November 3rd meeting. I would like the board to consider on this discussion if, through legal counsel, if I can work out a contract with Cody and his firm to come out for an evaluation and propose a new footer structure support or something to brace maybe the monument wall, because there's over 50,000 pounds on that wall, and it's about 26 to 28 inch deep footer. The soil has been up there for over 3 years, right before the 2013 floods hit, so 4 years. It's been compacted. There's just too much doubt that we've gone too far. Hindsight's 20/20, when the birds were put in several years ago, maybe we should have gone later than I did. But they were given the plans. The plans show a couple of different depths, and I don't know why. I know Dave and I talked about it. One plan showed one depth, one plan showed another depth. I didn't catch it. I just didn't. I didn't pay attention to it. So.
Are you a structural engineer?
No, but I like taking the
Well,
blame.
now, Safe Built inspected it, right?
They inspected it, but what we found out, they're more concerned about rebar and steel than actual concrete. But they didn't measure it. But yeah, they did inspect it.
They should measure.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I put footers in at my house, the guy came out and he measured them.
Yeah.
He measured my holes before I could put any cement in.
And
So,
to add to that, Mike, part of it is I think they moved a lot of soil away. And I think they could have been at 32 or 36, and now they've got below 30. And that's what Dave and I was talking about, is some of that soil was excavated away. And that makes sense. Because honestly, when Mike Evans initially went up there with his loader, or with his skid steer, Bobcat, they pushed all that soil on the north side. If you've been up there, that all came off the side. So when Dave and I thought, we feel like they were done right, it's just so much has been excavated and bladed off, now they're lower than they need to be. I don't know enough about this, but I think it's worth having an engineer look into. My spending authority is up to $5,000 legally by the board. I would ask the board to let me pursue a contract. I'd bring it back November 3rd to have you to validate it. I need to move forward as soon as possible, at least have assessed. As long as we don't go over that $5,000 spending limit. And that's just for his time. I'm going to have to come back to you with whatever he proposes for concrete and footers.
Why are you saying November 3rd, we're not having the 17th meeting?
Sorry, we are having the 17th meeting. I'm just jumping already ahead of November 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was gonna
He's
say-
trying to get the year over with, Tim.
For some reason, I thought it was in October.
We're not meeting for another month?
No, in 2 weeks, October 17th, but with the weather changing is
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, David,
What's
it's all
that?
your fault, David. He's here.
I know, he is. But that's kind of what I don't have a contract for you, but it's a basic professional service agreement, the same one we did for Jim Nelson, same one we did for Mile High Play Systems. So that's a template, we just need to plug in the numbers. His scope of services is not unreasonable. I even make copies, I can pass this around. This is what
Do we have a rough idea?
he doesn't know time-wise until he takes an assessment. And he's got to draw together some plans, and then he said he would help oversee that. I won't know that until we initially meet. But he doesn't want to meet without a contract, so I don't blame him, so.
Oh, okay.
But, he is the principal executive at $185 an hour. He does have managers at $125, and then staffing engineers from 90 to 65 techs.
But he's the original guy.
He is the original engineer that Mike Tupel worked with.
Right, so
He
he
sounds great.
knows this.
Yeah, and he knows it. He pulled it right up on his computer while we were talking on the phone yesterday. Gary, he had it all worked out.
Well, it needs to be done, so.
Yeah. It scares
My
me,
opinion,
it's so
do it.
heavy and the walls are so tall, we just can't allow any kind of settling.
No, it needs to be done right.
And if anything changes, I'll talk to the mayor and he can communicate with the board, but, I'm hoping to reach out to him first thing in the morning, because he had planned on meeting with me and Jim Nelson up there tomorrow morning. So I'm hoping that doesn't change.
What you said, Adrian, is exactly right. We have, and that was when Troy and I talked, after I found out about it too, is we have no choice. No matter what, we have to do this, or if we take a chance on losing the whole thing, we better all be ready to move out of town.
Now, where are we at with how much we've spent of the 100,000?
The shelter invoice came in today at 20,000. Right now, I think I looked at the budget, it's actually straight in front of me. As of the end of August financials, we're still, about 100,000 short, because I only paid maybe 20,000 to Jim Nelson so far. The shelter payment came in today at 20,000. Jim Nelson's total is 47. We estimated 10,000 for CNR Electric, Mike Evans. That ended up being like 5,800, because it was just material. He didn't charge us any cost for his labor.
This is about 70.
So we're still sitting pretty decent, but I won't know really until the financials tomorrow, when Dave Green comes in and updates the financials.
I was just curious.
But I've been tracking that, but I'm not getting a lot of invoices right now,
Okay.
which is,
Well, I mean, we're right in the midst of it. Every time we go up there, it's quite a bit done.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that shed, for example, part of, putting the brick and stuff and blocking that shed was part of the bid, but that roof was donated, the wood around it was donated, and that steel door was donated by people that Jim Nelson knows. They just heard it about the mall, they just donated those items. And actually, they came back and took the edging around that shed roof off and put in some new wood that he recommends not painting it or sanding it, just leaving it, because it has that natural rustic look that over time it gets a little darker. And he said that would just look really well up there.
He was telling me about, the door for the shed, doing a cedar door as well, into that door, to make it match the soffit and make it look nice.
The cedar edging around
Yeah.
the door, the steel door.
Is that what you, okay, yeah.
You want it to be steel with electric on there, don't you?
And pretty much the shed is, the electrical's all done, since we're still talking about the memorial. Mike stopped in yesterday actually. He's finished up the two lights that go underneath the shelter, and they'll be put on the same, motion sensor as the other lights, so they'll all come on at 9. David has been working with their IT people about security cameras. That'll be coming up next. When we talk about budget coming up, on the 18th, we have a study session on capital projects. I'm trying to get a number from Jim Nelson to give me a quote on putting 2 pillar columns at the entrance of the cemetery, and match the ones that are down the road, and then we can put a gate in, so we can lock that cemetery at night, and help reduce vandalism. So there's other things coming your way, but we're going to have to have other conversations here in a couple weeks.
The one thing I would think would be important to note, that when you ask him about that, make sure it is not going to be a structure with a veneer on it, that it is actually matching the other ones, which would be full stones and full masonry.
It's a cobblestone, and he looked at them, and he assessed them, he said, I can get all this material. And he said he probably had to go back into the other ones, and it's how detailed he is, and he probably had to mortar and touch up the other ones just to make them look a bit better, which makes sense. But we're not gonna change those. I mean, I've had a lot of seniors say, don't touch those stones, and I'm not going to touch those stones. Absolutely not going to.
Well, it's just, so much stuff now is concrete or some kind of a frame and then a veneer. And I didn't think that would be appropriate in this situation, trying to match what's existing, so I'm glad you're gonna do that.
Yeah, the walls, most of the walls are the thick stone that are inset. And then like the shelter has the thinner, and then the back of the memorial wall, it's about half.
Yeah, that's a veneer, and that's fine, because it's consistent.
It's consistent, and it looks just the same.
Yeah,
So-
yes.
So if the board's okay with that one, I'm gonna work with this engineer and see if we can get something going, and then I'll bring back, I'll just stay with it below my 5,000 cost limit on the engineering part. And I'll probably just take it, I'll look at the budget, if with the things we've had so far, almost 5,000 loan from the electrical, I think we'll be fine.
Either that, or just have him send a flunky with a cell phone.
But that's all I have on that right now.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this issue? Okay. Next is presentation of 2018 draft budget. Mr. Rankin.
You have before you, I thought, do we hand us paper copies? By statute, you have to receive the draft budget by October 15th. So the next meeting on the 17th, I'm giving it to you tonight to meet statutory requirements. The only big change of this is that the Public Works Fund has been established, which really is their salaries and their benefits and some of their operations. Dave Green's coming in tomorrow, he still has to combine and build the buildings and grounds funds to where it incorporates all the, the facilities as far as utilities. We talked about that at the last budget meeting. And we still have a big meeting on Wednesday, the 18th, talk about capital projects. I'm working on that presentation this week. I'm identifying all the, some people call them wish list, but capital project proposals, and then what funding available, the funds we have available throughout the budget. From the capital improvement fund to water, sewer, general fund, which is, as far as cash flow, there's right now in Colorado Trust, we've set aside over $500,000 in Colorado Trust just for general fund reserves, for anything. Then we also have the Colorado Trust accounts for the memorial, or for the, not the memorial, but for the senior center, for the sewer, all those, the downtown, those are all identified. On the 18th, I'm gonna show you those Colorado Trust funds specifically, because that comes up to about $2 million. But $500,000 is just general fund surplus that we put aside, so we didn't spend it.
Is that $500,000 inclusive with the two?
That's probably $2 million.
Okay.
Because in total, Colorado Trust over $5 million, but the library has a big portion, water and sewer has a big portion. But, those are numbers I think it'll be interesting to look at. So, but I wanna make sure this was on the record, and we document tonight that you received the draft budget, and we still have some more work to do on this one.
Got it. Take it home and read it tonight.
He will.
Promise.
He'll be up all night.
You won't even have to take a sleep, or you'll be out like a light.
Right now,
I won't get that day one.
right now, the drafts, and these are not numbered, the price of numbering.
Why are they getting smaller?
What's getting
The
smaller?
print.
Mary?
Paper doesn't get
I asked her today, I said, should we do the big 11 by 17? And she kinda looked at me and said, nah, we'll just do this one.
Next you'll be giving us on index cards.
It's just right.
Well, what'll happen is when you get that, it'll increase these numbers over here that we use for tracking, those will go away. So it'll help us enlarge the font, because right now this is like a 10 or a 9, it should be about 12 or 14.
Sorry, just had that last chance to remove those items,
Might be an
numbers.
We can add a line item and buy you all magnifying glasses.
Thanks, Mary, for the
They don't
sympathy.
come big enough for me.
My last comment, Mayor, or the board, is in the general fund. Again, it's not paid, about halfway through, right for the library, just for the general fund expenditures in. We're about 3,900 in the black as far as expenditures, revenues, and this is just estimates. But I wanted to point out that we did budget to go over expenditures from revenues this year by $350,000. We did set some money in there to do some additional street projects. But from not spending as much as we anticipated, we're estimating of only going over by $20,000. But I need to have a couple more financials, monthly financials come in before I concrete those numbers. But what I'm getting at is, we did not spend the allocated funds this year as we anticipated. So we have a cost savings, to me, pretty substantial cost savings. So I just wanted to point that out.
And conservative budgeting.
Mm.
Thank you.
You bet.
When we consider how we started out the year, what the things we intended to do, and then the things we did do, and we managed to tuck it into the budget, and come out this well, I'm absolutely astounded.
I was glad to say.
Did a lot.
Yes.
So like, right now, our reserves or unallocated funds are about 2 million, just under 2 million,
Right.
about 1.98.
It's going to be really good to see all the numbers, so I can kind of wrap my brain around it. The one thing that I had a lot of trouble with is trying to, in the past, we allocate a certain amount of wages to each fund, and having everything in one lump is going to take a while to be able to start making rational comparisons year over year. But, I think it's a step forward. I think it's the right thing to do. It's just going to take a little getting used to.
And we also have a separate spreadsheet that I can have David Green put together more formally that shows just wages and benefits, and they're broken down by department. So that's even a little bit more detailed, if you want to see that. I just had to take names off, I just had to put by department, by position.
For a little light reading, I wouldn't mind that.
Okay, fair enough. But that's all I
I assume
have.
Mike wants a copy.
If you could, make it large print.
All right, Mary, next time I'll make large print. But that's all I have for the budget presentation, that's just the draft.
Okay.
That I have work to do.
Okay, next we are going to hear from our illustrious Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a couple of updates and bullet points on my memo. We did, the first item under the wastewater system, we did repair the sewer line. I don't have a good explanation as to why. It was a 6-inch PVC sewer line that was separated right at a gasket, right where a bell joint had been put together. It separated by about 8 or 9 inches. Don't know how long that's been in there that way, but it finally decided to give us a fit, and...
Stinky down there?
Well, after almost 30 years of sewer, it really wasn't all that bad, but somebody else might have said it didn't smell all that great. We unfortunately, where the normally sewer lines run from a manhole to manhole, any grade change or direction change, they put a manhole. So we measured out what they told us the distance was to the problem, we lined up our manholes, and we dug down, and there was no sewer line. So we recalculated, looked a little bit, dug down another location, still no sewer line. So we had them come back out with the TV camera, put a locator on the camera, run it back up there, and it's about 14 feet away from where we thought it should be.
Holy cow.
We still have not figured out exactly why or how it ended up in the location that it did. It's repaired, it's flowing, I just don't know exactly where it's flowing to, so we're still trying to figure out where it all ties together.
Is it legal to put an elbow in sewer pipe?
Yes. It's not recommended,
Could it have an elbow?
it's not industry practice, but it is possible. And so, typically a manhole is anywhere from $1,500 to $4,500 depending on the depth. And so a 90-degree bend is $45. So when that was being put in, at the time, were they thinking it was a service line? Because we allow bends on a service line, you don't have to put a manhole in. And somehow the town inherited that as a main line. I can't speak to that, I don't know why, but it's...
None of that was disturbed when we were paving?
That's the one possibility, Kim, when we were working with the water lines and everything else. I don't remember ever seeing it or bumping it, but if it was there and we didn't actually expose it, but we had a bucket that curled underneath it, that might have been what pulled it apart a couple of years ago. I don't know.
Okay.
The pipe was in good shape up to the point of the split. the separation. So, once we identified where it was at, it took our crew about an hour and a half to expose it, about 30 minutes, 20 minutes to put it back together, another 30 minutes to start backfilling it, and then we brought in flow fill to make sure that we don't have any kind of settling issues in that hole.
Will that flow fill lock that pipe?
We don't flow fill directly on the pipe.
Oh, okay.
We raise somewhere between 1 foot and 18 inches above it with some pea gravel and other material underneath that's a very compactable material underneath that, because we don't want the flow fill around the pipe itself.
You're afraid because it conducts heat?
No,
Prevent frost?
if I have to deal with that sewer line again, I don't want to dig the flow fill off of it.
Okay.
So that's the update there. On my second sheet, let's see, where was it? Oh, the basketball court out at Rogers Farm Park. They started excavation on that today. The weather has held them up a little bit, but they did start to remove a little bit of material and start to put the road base back in there. And as I drove in this evening, I noticed, they had called me this morning and said they were going to get started on that, and then as I drove in this evening, I saw that I would guess that they got about half of the road base put back in there during the day today. They were excavating enough material that we could leave it basically at the same height. They were we called out 4 inches of road base underneath the 4-inch concrete pad. So, those are the only 2 updates. If there's other questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer.
The chip seal,
Yes, ma'am.
the fog that goes on top.
I have not heard back from them, but they said with the weather that was predicted this last weekend, that it probably will end up having to be this next weekend that they come in and fog it, depending on what the weather does to us this week.
Okay.
So,
It's supposed to be 80, I think, on Saturday, or
yeah,
70.
so my guess is that they'll be back here on Saturday. It may be the following Monday, I'm not positive. They know that schools are out on Monday right now, and that they don't have to contend with that traffic issue there. But they did warn me that they may or may not get that fog seal put on right away, which the fog seal is as much aesthetic as it does locking the chip in. It does more for looks than it does for locking the chip in. It does help lock the chip in, but it's absolutely making it more of a black, pretty, newly done street than it is locking the chip in. It's a little of both, and it's an inexpensive way to finish the job, is what it is.
Well, I've noticed some of the chips have moved with the traffic.
Well, and you get that even after they put the fog seal down, you just probably don't notice it quite as much, so.
It's all black.
Yeah. So,
How is the sidewalks coming? Repairs been done?
well, what the crew that's going to do the sidewalks, because of the weather, has been held up on some other stuff. We asked them to do the basketball court first, so that the other contractor can get in and put the fence out there. And so we didn't want the new fence in there and then them trying to get in there and do the basketball court. So, they're hoping with 80 degrees predicted for Saturday, they're hoping to pour the basketball court on Saturday. That'll allow the other contractor to come in and start to put his fencing in next week or the week after, and then they're gonna head for the sidewalk repairs.
Okay, so that's.
So it still should be done while the weather is, they will be blanketing it as they do it if we're having cooler nights.
Yeah, because it's down in the 30s.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Brand? You're off the hook easy tonight, David. Thank you. Next, we have, let's see, do we have managers? Okay, thank you very much. I always cover this page up, I don't know why I do that. Mr. Rankin, please.
The report identified a number of topics, just a few updates. Senior Center, I'm getting submittals every week on details that I'm talking about, the architect about. door hinges and door colors and, he's playing with most of that stuff, so.
I was so excited today when I saw somebody digging a hole.
And it was our Shane digging it. One thing, I'm glad you brought that up, is that power supply that goes to the concession stand comes from that side, that box on the west side of the community center. I'm waiting on initially they were just gonna leave it there in that hallway, and we thought best there, well, what was left there was actually put on the outside of the building in the new addition. That might be $1,000, $2,000 to change that. What I'm hearing from the project managers, it could be up to $13,000. So I talked to Mike Evans, he goes, absolutely not. He said, if we have to deal with that after the fact, he can easily do that and move that at a much, much, much lower cost. So I don't know the details yet, but those are the things I'm doing. Every week I'm getting, almost every day I'm getting submittals back and forth. Safeville sent their response. They're now saying, because we all know that the fitness room will never have more than a dozen people in there, because that's, we only have about 6 machines. The senior center has about 30 to 40 members. They're going to have set tables and chairs with their lounge area, so we estimate about 50. Safeville says, based upon building code, that it's going to be over 300 population on that side of the building, which would trigger either a sprinkler system or a firewall. Can't afford a sprinkler system. But Bob Trev can design a pretty reasonable firewall that will separate, a 2-hour rated firewall between the two sides of the building. They're arguing back and forth, and Bob just said, let me take care of it. I said, okay. So.
Would that be for probably not too much more money?
I don't know yet, I don't know the details yet, but they're working on that.
So if you're gonna transfer lines, are you just gonna trench and just bury conduit and then let Mike fish the lines through when you're done?
Right now, there is conduit from the existing building over to the concession stand, and then there was also conduit running out to a temporary,
is it big enough?
For the band and for our Harvest Daze setup.
Right.
We're getting rid of that temporary because that's going to be a parking area. The building's going to expand over it. Right now, the whole idea was to get this out from under the footers so the contractor doesn't have to deal with it under the footers. They're not leaving it there, that kind of thing.
Okay.
The original estimate of $13,000 made me drop my jaw as well, because all they're doing is pulling some wire from the existing one. I think it's 130 feet over to where we wanted the new panel at, and then Mike will bring it back and tie it back in once it's all done. So currently what we're doing, Mike, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, the excavation that happened today, Mike located that service line from the existing community center over to the existing concession stand. We are going to dig that existing conduit up to a point that we're outside of their excavation area, outside of the new senior center. Mike's gonna disconnect the wires, he's gonna pull the wires out of the conduit, we're gonna get rid of that conduit, or I don't know, I mean, we're pulling it out of the ground, we're getting it out of the way. We're gonna coil that up, leave it set until they get the new building done, the new panel on the outside, then we'll bring that back into that new panel. So, all we were asking them to do was set a new junction box, basically, on the outside of the building. It's on the northwest corner of the building, right on the back side of the exercise room. Set that there, and we will just bring the conduit, we meaning Public Works and Mike Evans, will bring the conduit back into that, tie back in. All we were asking them to do was run overhead through the new building from the existing over to the new panel. 130 feet, I think, is what they estimated it to be.
So, talking to Mike, I'm assuming, because we also asked him, we initially didn't bid for the transfer switch on the building. The transfer switch is needed if we would take our big emergency generators and power up the building. Mike has been struggling for the last couple of years with that cell because it had to be engineered. And now we can actually pursue that, and I think part of that $13,000 estimate, I haven't seen the actual paper estimate yet, could be part of that as well, but I'll do some clarification. But anything over that, anything as far as work change orders, I'm going to bring to the board, obviously, if I have to. So,
I appreciate everything you guys do to save money on that senior center, because that's the, we have to subsidize everything above what it is now, we have to put the bill for, so I appreciate all the diligence.
Well, it's not calling this big of a project, I mean, it's a small one as far as contractors go, but it's good for us, and then we get some little changes here and there. Thursday morning at 9, we're gonna meet with TCC and Mr. Evans and Connie Woodard from Excel to discuss where we're gonna do that transformer thing for the front. We're gonna move that out of there. We may just slide it over to the south a little bit, but we don't know yet. And then they have to discuss, they're gonna dislocate that transformer, and they're gonna just supply them a temporary power supply until that transformer is relocated. And there's a 3-phase pole transformer behind the building that supplies the GoPro lighting system. that we made.
That's the one on the back of the garage?
Yeah, it's on the pole. It's a pole mount.
Okay.
Yeah. Rogers Farm, Journey Homes, it's been interesting. I read the letter regarding the warranty work. They're gonna do it, they're just arguing on how they have to do it, or when they have to do it. So I'm just gonna turn this over to legal counsel and have them deal with it.
So they have acknowledged that it is their responsibility, and they have an intention to perform?
Their response is most of what David and Steve Bethers assessed was reasonable, but the time frame wasn't. But conflicts with, because David had talked to one of their contractors, and he was ready to go a couple weeks ago. So, I'll keep you updated on that, but we will get that resolved. They also did the same thing to the ditch company. The ditch company sent them a response saying they need to make corrections with the fence and the footers, and they basically told them the same thing. You're unreasonable, we're not gonna do it. So now it's a legal matter. But, it will get resolved. I already talked about the memorial, still nothing on the Main Street project with undergrounding. And then I've been talking to Carl a lot lately, he's advertising, has somebody to put out an advertisement where I hired 2 brand new police officers. As Officer Greg Hart has resigned, he's going to Lockbilly, he got an offer there for $8,000 more a year.
Would you elaborate on the circumstance? You can't you?
On the details, what happens, we're down an officer, which Kathy Weinmeister, the one that replaced Officer Feinlove, started this week. And her training is anticipated to be pretty short. She has a lot of experience and she's done investigations before. So we're looking at her training being shorter than normal, maybe a month or 2. It just depends on how fast she picks up on how things are done in Platteville. But as
So
far
then
as,
we'll just be down 1?
well, no, because technically we're down 1, but then Sierra has offered to move into the SRO spot in November. There's an opportunity that she wanted to pursue. It is just really hard to find an SRO. We are fortunate to get Matt McChesney. It's easier to find a line officer. So Carl told her that if we still stay too short-handed, she may suck down the streets, but the school district wants two officers in school, so we need to get one in there. And she's excited about the opportunity. When she first got hired, she asked a lot about it, but at that time we wanted somebody with at least a couple years' experience, not a rookie, and now she has those 2 years. So she basically, it's not promotion, it's a transfer of positions. So that will leave 2 full-time positions to be filled. The one from Officer Hart and the one from Sierra Vessels. And that's being advertised next week, this weekend, sometime.
Went up today.
Went up today.
Well, okay, I don't know about my math. We had 1 line officer and 1 SRO waiting for background check. And the SRO
Quit.
decided not to.
Yeah, they actually,
Quit before you started?
Quit before he started.
true story, but this is how, this is in the law enforcement world right now. The sheriff from Morgan County called Carl last week and said, hey, can you give me, because now the post has changed the requirements, if it's within 3 years, you can just give agencies psych tests and not background checks, but psych tests and polygraph. And that's what Meade did with Officer Feinlove. And the sheriff's like, and Carl's like, what are you talking about? Well, so-and-so, this gentleman's here, I want to hire him. He goes, I just offered him a job. And Carl goes, is he there? And he goes, yeah. And he talked on the phone. He goes, oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to call you. I'm going to go for sheriff's office in the county. So, anyway, that's what happened to that.
But what happened to the line officer that we already hired?
That one was filled by Officer Weinmeister, and then now Officer Hart quit, and now Officer Vessels is going to SRO, so there's two
Okay,
openings again.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, you have to think about it.
There's a lot of transferring back, but on, police officers now, I mean, the way they treat them, I can't imagine why they don't want these jobs.
The way things have changed is really a bidding war. If you can go after small agencies like Platteville, you can find somebody with your experience, you're gonna save yourself a ton of money by hiring them away from them.
Yeah.
And that's a debate we have to discuss again in the future, because it's,
But we've always had this problem. We're a
Well,
small town.
it seems
Just
to be,
can't-
we've had this problem, but not to the extent that I've seen it in the last
Yeah,
couple of
but
years.
a
we're
lot of
doing-
cities are dealing with this.
Well-
There's not enough police officers.
We're doing exit interviews, right, Troy?
not formal exit interviews, because they get a letter of resignation, and they explain why they're leaving, like,
So, I'm just curious, if I can make a request, if we do formal exit interviews, because there's a trend. And when we do formal exit interviews, maybe we can find a trend. We can't address it if we can't find a trend. If it's constantly money, if it's, yeah, I'm not, saying this is what's going, what if it's upper management? What if it's, the people underneath them,
And I do talk to every employee that leaves the bars, opportunity and why they're leaving. I don't sit down across the table, I'm gonna do a formal interview. It's like, basically I did that with Jennifer. I talked to Luke in Public Works. Everyone that leaves, I have an opportunity to at least ask them some basic questions. So it's not very formal, but I can make it more so.
yeah,
Because I'm curious why we can't keep them either.
yeah.
Some of it's
Well-
just closer to home, opportunity, career
Yeah.
advancement, some of it's financial.
A couple of the ones that just left said it was just closer to home. But we also have to look at, we have a new police chief.
We do, and Carl and I talked about
Person in
that.
charge,
We had an open
changing
conversation
things.
about changes in personnel and philosophies and styles, and,
Yeah.
the former chief had much more of a vision of growing and expanding and doing certain things, where Carl is more of, he wants to be a small town chief and provide those services for Platteville. And so when you talk about opportunity in the Platteville Police Department, we're not gonna have that with other agencies have. We're just not going to.
Sure, absolutely. And that's why I'm kind of looking towards an exit interview, is they're gonna show us trends. They're gonna give us the answers.
Yeah, I completely
We can
agree.
address those things, even if it's to not address them,
Yeah, and I agree
Well,
with that.
and I don't know, some of the things that, the opportunity to move up. Now, I know we've hired, in some cases, I think we hired a sergeant. Now, did we have no one on our force who is qualified or ready to be promoted to that position? Because that has some, bearing on the morale of your people too. If you have someone who is feeling they're ready to be promoted, and then someone comes in from out of the organization and takes that position, that hurts morale of an organization.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna second guess the police force or anything like that, but I think, we need, if we don't have, if they don't see opportunity here, then the money's gonna drag them away every time.
Sure.
But if the opportunity and they can see a future for themselves here, then that's important.
That's a key point.
What we've always, I completely agree, we have limited resources. What we've always done, just so you know, is that every officer has an opportunity for additional responsibilities that can bring some kind of, not a rank, but, for example, Officer Bonner is going to the field training officer school, so he'd be a training officer. That's something he's wanted to do. It's not a rank, but it's a status. It's something that improved since.
It's on your patch, isn't it?
Yeah, we can do that as well. We said the CIT, Critical Incident Training School, that's a pretty high acknowledgement training. So we try to offset rank, because we have very limited rank opportunities, with opportunity as far as training and responsibilities. And part of that will be, pay recommendations as well. But, we're kind of restricted on that. But every officer, we try to give some opportunity to be a firearms instructor, self-defense instructor, you name it, radar instructor. So, at the time we hired the sergeant, no one was on the agency that had been here 5 or more years experience, and that's typically our standard is 5 years total experience. Nobody here at that time was, even the 2 that left. A full-time experience. And that's tough, because right now our senior officer now is Officer Vessel with 2 out of 6 officers back there.
And there's so many other things that come into play for these officers. They have so much latitude now. They can go anywhere and everywhere they want, where, it didn't used to be that way. And can I talk about Officer Hart a little bit?
Probably not in more detail than what I've done now.
Okay.
He's resigned, but,
Okay.
officers in general can be, and.
Because
One thing Carl was talking about, there's so many agencies, cities, towns growing. Milliken's hiring 2 new officers above their current staff. Of course, Meade, started a new police department. In the next few years, they want to get up to quite a few, because they have a lot of potential growth. Lock Bowie is expanding officers. So everybody's growing, so they're adding to their forces, but the candidates aren't there. I mean, right now, law enforcement is not the profession it used to be to get into. Not just for the pay, but because of all these things that you see on social media. It's tough, very tough.
Yes, yeah, I don't know if there's an answer, but it just seems like, just this year, how many have we?
Yes.
And this year's been a bad year.
It's been a
It's been a
brutal
really
year.
bad year.
But it's
And
a
I
trend
think-
with all towns, not just
Well,
one.
Most towns will have, like small towns, you'll have, if you look at LaSalle and Milliken, they'll have a court group. That's what I was talking about. You get your 4 or 5 officers at your court group. They have their rank, they're satisfied, they're good in their family position, their financial position. They have a little opportunity. When I was chief for small communities, I always went to get that court group, and there's always that 1 or 2 officers that always rotate. And we're not there yet. We don't have.
We don't have a court.
No.
We've had the turnover this year. Our core group is Carl.
Carl's it.
That's it,
Well,
And it seems like we had a core group for a while, and maybe that's because we had Carl, more in the core group as opposed to.
Well, I was fortunate because, I had Carl, Brad, and Eli, and Jim, and they just stayed, over 20 years.
yeah.
But,
There's more than just money that keeps people around.
sure,
And we
you're
need
exactly
to
right.
look at all of them, including money. It needs to be looked at in the big picture. And it's not just for our police officers, it's for all of our employees.
Yeah.
We've got turnover everywhere.
Another big factor is the health insurance. And I'm looking at, Mary came up, found the, what's it called? County pool?
Yeah.
And I think that's the same one that Milliken uses, and there's an officer in Milliken that I know that has his wife and 2 children on there, they pay like $160 a month, where we pay $1,000 a month for family coverage. So
That's huge.
that's a huge benefit. It's not just, you're right, it's not just the pay, but the pay's one thing, but if an officer's in me, as an example, I'm not talking about anybody specifically, is making $25 an hour, and we pay $25 an hour, but they pay $1,000 a month for health insurance, or we do, and they only pay $150, that's huge. That's money your paycheck.
Well, when I went to the mayor's summit, the chief of Evans spoke, and I talked to him later on, one-to-one, and he was echoing exactly what we're talking about tonight. He said, the department the size of his, and I can't remember, he told me how many officers, he says, they have quite a few in Evans. He said that what happens is, the bigger departments come directly to his people, and they recruit among his people because they're already trained and everything like that. And that's what we've had that forever. We train the bigger towns' officers, and only we're seeing it a lot more enhanced now because even Greeley loses people.
You know what,
It's
and
amazing.
that's another thing though that I guess I'm having trouble with, because if I was a police officer, I'd rather be a police officer in Platteville than in Aurora.
Yeah.
You know? I mean.
Some of them like the excitement.
Well, some of them do, but a lot of them would prefer, you talk to a lot of them, and when they come in, they say, I want to be small town, We've had people come in here and just want to be a police officer in a small town, and yet they've left.
Yeah.
So, and they've left to go to small towns too,
And
and I guess that's,
I
think Carl, I've got all the faith in the world in him. I just think maybe there's something that we as a board, or, we as a town can start to look at in regards to, maybe changes in our policies or something that'll give our officers an incentive to not just leave for a little bit extra money.
Well, yeah, just because it's happened in all of history and it's happening all around us, that's not good enough for me. We can be different. I don't like to follow the masses, and there's no reason why it can't be looked at and addressed.
Well, one thing about, instead of doing an exit interview, how about you just do a department survey, just to feel what, what the police force is doing, what are, our current officers that we have right now. Let's do a survey to see what their needs are their needs getting met? Do they have opportunities? Do they feel this? Do they feel that? And then we have something to go off of to see what they're.
So I don't want to step up into Troy for, that's not our business.
Not our business.
I'm interested in exit interviews, because if the board can make changes in policy and money and what we can handle, that's what I would like to do. I don't want to take Troy's job and say, I want to make these employees happy here and there. My experience also in surveying employees who don't plan on leaving is they're generally not honest, because they don't want to get reprimanded for that.
Yeah.
So I would not like to step into Troy's area. I trust him. That's good enough for me.
But I'd have to also say, it's not just money. We've had really good quality applicants for jobs recently.
Well, we have to get creative, and that doesn't mean money always.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm saying we've gotten some really good people recently, and quite a few applicants to the job opening. So it's not that we're way out of the tail.
One thing I was talking to Carl about is, this is an organizational wide issue. The front office and public works, not this place. And look at what we've had.
We gotta
Public
keep it
works,
down.
Front office in the last 5 years. Deb is my tenured person in the front office, and she's been, 6 years now, maybe? Just finished 5, so I'm jumping ahead. Of course, we have Todd and David, been 8+, public work. But, you have your certain core people, but, 2 years ago, I sat down with everybody in this room in January. We had an employee meeting, we talked about employee handbooks and this and that. That's what we're talking about. They wanted to change IT, they like IT. The police officers, I'll meet with them on Monday again. I said, what are your needs? I said, well, we need cell phones to actually take pictures, because cameras are outdated, that's dinosaur age. So we ordered the camera, we ordered cell phones to actually take these pictures. We reach out to them as far as those basic needs, but as far as individual, I have heard plenty. Health insurance is a huge one. And I am going to approach you on the 18th about longevity benefits and looking at broadening what those benefits could be applied for. Because they've earned it. Right now, you only send it toward a town-provided benefit, but some are asking me, what about educational costs? I'm trying to advance myself. What if I stay here for X amount of time? Why use that money for an educational cost? So those are things we're going to talk about on the 18th that are specifically directed toward the employees to help benefit them too.
Well, that's just it. What can we do?
Yeah.
It's not our job to manage the police department, manage the town. We're the fiduciary of the town.
And the
That's
thing,
our job.
and the thing with the PD is we have a chief who's been in control 6 months. It is gonna take him a couple of years to make that department his department. And so, yeah, I would be careful. I wouldn't jump the gun on PD. We'd give it a chance to set up his culture.
Yeah, because his
I'm
his
not,
way
I'm
of
not
leading is so
besmirching
different than mine.
anything. I mean, I think 90% of it is the fact that these big towns are offering stuff that we can't offer. But
I agree.
is there something we can do?
And there's some reasonable, there's some options, and I want to talk to them on the 18th. And when we meet, they attract people for the same amount of money, but they can take home cars. We almost have enough cars to take home cars, I mean, seriously. And what is the big cost of the town compared to, those are incentives that you never know. I mean, a lot of towns are going to it, and it's attracting people left and right because it saves them a ton of money in their own pocket. So those are things we need to talk about, and some others. So when we talk about salaries and benefits, the benefits section is actually something, benefits as a whole is what I want to focus on later. So, but that's all I have for my report. I told Carlson I was going to talk about the PD. He had to go to the Gilchrist meeting, board meeting tonight, and do his report. He'll be here at the next meeting. But things are happening so fast. I feel there's an opportunity because you're going to be seeing different faces. They're going to see them also for 12-hour shifts for probably the next 3 months. Quite honestly, because we're going to be down too often.
The raw water supply plan, is that, have you gotten a final draft of that?
We have the draft, and I sent back some edits last week, and I know David's going to review it, and I'm hoping to have that to the board on the 17th as a presentation.
He is going to give us a presentation? Or
Either on the 17th or November 3rd, he hasn't confirmed which one yet.
Okay, good. Are we good? I hope we can outline, or pull out a significant chunk of time, because I have a feeling there's going to be some questions.
It's not a long, cumbersome plan. I mean, it's an analysis of our portfolio and some options and some comparisons with the towns. And I mentioned at the last board meeting, there are some proposals and recommendations of putting some money in the bank, maybe another enterprise fund, but, we haven't got that point yet.
Okay.
But, water's huge, and Colorado's going to run out of CBT at some point. Hopefully not my lifetime, but it's a possibility. Because if all the houses going up and people are buying CBT, these communities, these developers, it's, people that don't understand CBT is not infinite. One thing is we have to look at other water suppliers, so that will be part of the presentation.
Well, and we live in Great American Desert. We live in the desert. The water is very important.
The mayor's desert. That's all I have. Mary, did you have anything else that you can think of?
Adrian, did you want to bring something up?
Yeah, so I went to this, it's not calling it oversight committee, we're calling it for the bond issues passing and the transparency. You guys have a printout there of what's been done, why, there's rumors flying, the field was done and it doesn't look like anything's being done for the building. There's quite a bit done. Lots of red tape, lots and lots of red tape. Got to go through hiring consultants and just general contractors for each different location. Moving forward, permitting, I think they're being responsible with the money. There's a third-party company overseeing the money, or bank. And wow, a lot of red tape. I thought we had a lot of red tape. It's crazy. But I have, all this information is available on the Wells County School District website. So you can print it off. There's specific scopes and timelines and amounts for each school. And that's available on the website as well. Yeah, you guys have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If I don't have an answer, I can contact Dawn and get you an answer.
Has there been a lot of,
Well, so, mostly the work that has been done in the buildings is abating asbestos.
but what I mean is that you sounds like there's a lot of people out there from the one.
Because the field's done and nothing's happening to the buildings, or it looks that way. So,
But
you
they
know.
had the plans for that already done.
Well, it's low
A lot
hanging
of
fruit,
it.
and they don't have to, they didn't have a ton of red tape, and they didn't have to work around school kids in our, 7-week summer, and, so it's low hanging fruit, wanted it done. And it's something that benefits all 3 schools and every kid in the district, so.
And you gotta have a football field. We won homecoming.
Well, the track is number 1.
Yeah.
That was the biggest deal, was the track, so.
Looks nice over there.
Yes. I think the Little Vikings will play on the October 21st home game down there, so yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Yeah, but any information, anything else, you guys, please don't hesitate to call, go over it again, a little bit more details probably next meeting when there's others with us.